All right, first off, let's go with Alcatrazz, No Parole for Rock and Roll. This is a killer album from California. Features Yngwie Malmsteen on the guitar. It's just a nice shreddy album. Excellent songs, great guitar playing, and it's a really enjoyable album. It's on Music for Nations. Alice Cooper Trash full length. It's got the song Poison as track number 1. It's a great album. Alien is a little bit of AOR. There's gonna be some AOR in here, some glam hard rock. This is a band from Sweden that just rules. Kind of tough to get, awesome album. Angelica, Christian rock, and these guys are doing a great job. Autograph, Sign in Peace. This is another banger. On the radio, you're gonna hear songs like Turn Up the Radio. Babylon AD is kind of underrated. I don't see this very often. It's an excellent album. The 2 albums from Badlands, of course, Voodoo Highway featuring Jakey Lee on guitar. Just shreddy, awesome. I love the debut album. You guys know this one, Badlands. I love Baton Rouge, Shake Your Soul. The production is unbelievable. It's just an amazing album. I love many tracks off this Baton Rouge. Bad Boys is kind of tough to get and rather underground. Bad Boys, they're a US band, looks like this. BB Steel kind of sounds like Def Leppard. On the Edge from BB Steel. This is another great album. If you like Def Leppard, you're gonna like this. Big Guns, Bustin' Out. Highly rare album on Retrospect Records, and it's excellent. Another one on Retrospect Records, excellent album, Blind Gypsy, Never Coming Home. This is a very easy to listen to album. Blue Murder is a classic on Geffen Records, produced by Bob Rock. You guys make sure you don't miss Blue Murder. Bon Jovi's New Jersey album and Slippery When Wet, 7800 Degrees Fahrenheit, and the debut album Bon Jovi with the song Runaway as track number 1. Brighton Rock from Canada, their album Love Machine is excellent raspy vocals. It's got some sleaze to it. I really like Brighton Rock from Canada. Britney Fox from the East Coast United States were members of Cinderella before they broke up and became their own band. Girls' School is a really killer song, and I love the album here from Britney Fox, debut album. A rarity called Buster Cherry. It's on Retrospect Records. You're gonna find lots of glam and hard rock on this Retrospect Records label, Buster Cherry. China, a little bit of AOR, really easy to listen to, Sign in the Sky. They've got several albums, I think Sign in the Sky turned out really well. Cinderella, top band of all time, Heartbreak Station, Long Cold Winter, and the awesome debut Night Songs, one of the best glam hard rock albums, in my opinion, of all time. Super underrated, Circus of Power, Still Alive is their live album. It's got a few tracks on it. Motor is so good, White Trash Queen, Heart Attack. Their second album is called Vices, and this you should also get too, Circus of Power, Vices. They're East Coast, United States. Their debut album kills. The cover is not too flattering, but really it's an excellent, excellent album. I love the vocals on Circus of Power. Don't miss out on Circus of Power. Motor, In the Wild, Heart Attack. Such a killer album. Cobra, First Strike. Really nice album. Great effort by these guys, good songwriting. A newer release called Crashdiet, Generation Wild. The band is from Sweden, and they have an excellent production. Look at that sleaze. Awesome Swedish album called Generation Wild from Crashdiet. Get into it. Cry Wolf. This is their second album called Crunch, and it's an amazing album. And very difficult to get is Japan release only. Cry Wolf debut album. Looks like this. Cry Wolf. Really tough to get. This band here, I believe, is from Poland. Germany, if I'm not mistaken. It's Czakan, Czakan, and they have an album called State of Confusion. This is kind of some heavy metal. It's got some glam elements in it, but it's more of a metal album, but I throw it in my hard rock because it's very rockin'. Damnation is kind of an underrated thing. So another good album is Damnation. I believe this might be even more recent. I kind of got this recently. Really nice classic album, Dangerous Toys. This has got some nice shreddy stuff. Look at these characters. This guy even has a Death t-shirt on. Some of these guys are fans of heavy metal. Dangerous Toys has got a really great album. Probably pretty underrated. Dare, Blood from Stone, a little bit of AOR, an excellent album. David Lee Roth's solo album called Eat 'Em and Smile, I think is one of the best of all time. David Lee Roth is just a hero. Def Leppard, Hysteria, this is a great album too. Pyromania, Dirty Looks, Cool from the Wire. This is the original Atlantic Records pressing of Cool from the Wire from Dirty Looks. That's an excellent glam hard rock album. Don Dokken's solo album, Up from the Ashes, I think is one of the best of all time on Geffen Records. Their comeback, Lightning Strikes Again, is so underrated. Dokken, Lightning Strikes Again. Their masterpieces, of course, are Back for the Attack, Under Lock and Key, and Tooth and Nail. And if you want to get into more earlier Dokken, you can check out the debut album, Breaking the Chains, from Dokken. Breaking the Chains song is just amazing. Next up, we got an album called Drive, and the album is Diabolero from Drive. European release, kind of tough to get. Eliza, No Time for Masquerade. I love this album cover, and it's an excellent, excellent album. I think I paid maybe 60 or 70 bucks to get this imported from Europe. It's just a really great underground masterpiece, if you ask me. Europe is a phenomenal band, one of the top rock albums of all time, of course. Out of Their World, The Final Countdown, Wings of Tomorrow is absolutely incredible. And even better is this earlier album. Look at that. Old School Epic Records Europe debut album. Just awesome. Ezo Fire Fire is a Japanese glam metal band. Kind of tough to get, underrated, and really cool. Another one on Retrospect Records, Far Cry. That's all I know about them. Far Cry, and they're awesome. The Trick or Treat soundtrack from Fastway and other bands, Trick or Treat soundtrack. Firehouse, well-known band, Hold Your Fires, their second album, and the debut album, Firehouse. This is a glam rock classic. I love the vocals in Firehouse. Fortune, Calling Spirits. And then the vocalist from Great White had a band called Freak of Nature, Gathering of Freaks. The production is amazing. Here's the vocalist of Great White right here. And their earlier album, Freak of Nature. This is on Music for Nations. Excellent album. Album number 61 of all time, Gary Moore, After the War. The reason why this is special is because Gary Moore, an Irish guitarist, was just amazing on the guitar. He had a bunch of albums. This album was really cool because it features actually Ozzy Osbourne in a couple tracks, unlisted even, Ozzy singing a couple songs on here, a couple other guest vocalists, and really excellent guitar playing from Gary Moore. Victims of the Future is an earlier album, and this is more of a heavy metal album, I suppose, but it's still, you know, led up to what we know as glam and hard rock. George Lynch, I got a solo album from him called Sacred Groove, I thought was really cool. Giant, Time to Burn, the second album, it's an AOR band, adult-oriented rock, and Giant, Time to Burn, I thought was fantastic. One that you'd probably never seen before is Glenmore and their album Materialized. Check it out. Look up Glenmore, Materialized. They put out, I think, a single album, and it just sounds really, really good. Glory, Danger in This Game. I kind of forgot what these guys sound like. Glory, Danger in This Game. The albums that I like from Great White are Twice Shy, of course, the classic album Once Bitten, the gorgeous album Shot in the Dark, an earlier album, and one that's just totally underrated is this one here, the self-titled Great White debut. This album is phenomenal. Phenomenal. I mean, people wonder why Great White is so popular. Well, listen to this earlier stuff. It's amazing. Guns N' Roses, Use Your Illusion Part 2 and 1 had some great hard rock on it. Here's their Lies EP and the 1987 album Appetite for Destruction. Gypsy Blue, Creative Tension, Gypsy Blue on Retrospect Records. Once you check out Retrospect Records, you're going to find a bunch of great bands. Basically everything that Retrospect Records put out is a bootleg company out of the United States, and one of the albums was Gypsy Blue, Creative Tension. Awesome album. Excellent production, Hardline, Double Eclipse. You guys know this one. It's kind of popular actually, and it's a great album, Hardline. I really like the band Heart, Bad Animals. Some of the chord progressions are just so punchy and great, not just for the radio, but for your rock music listening collection. Here's an earlier album from Heart. Excellent singing and production. Heaven's Edge is okay. It's a pretty popular album, and I like it. Next up, Heavy Bones. Here's one that's kind of rare and just great. If you like grunge music, you kind of missed out on Heavy Bones, didn't you? Never heard of Heavy Bones, and you like grunge, hard rock, you need to listen to it. Heist, High Heel Heaven. Love this album. This has got some really, really great songs on here. Loose Lips is really good. Great band, Heist. I'm not sure where they're from. Probably a US band. It's a great album. Hurricane Alice, H-E-R-I-C-A-N-E, Hurricane Alice, Tear the House Down. Another top gem in my collection. Top gem, Hurricane Alice. Holy Soldier, Last Train album, great lead guitar, great acoustic guitar. They're kind of inspired by Cinderella, I suppose. Icon, Right Between the Eyes, phenomenal album on Megaforce. Icon, Night of the Crime album, and then of course their earlier album too, Icon. Kind of tough to get, awesome album from Icon. Next up we've got Ivory Tower, Heart of the City. This is a rare release. Not many people have known this Ivory Tower, Heart of the City. And this is a really great listen. Look how glammy they are, nice and glammy. Jilson, Deadly Girl. I got so lucky on this, ordering this from Amazon. It turned out to be a first press. Paid like 10 bucks, you know, for like the first press Jilson, Deadly Girl. Freaking awesome album. Another one that's just a total gem in my collection. Joker, Red Light Records, Joker. Man, awesome album. Keel, The Final Frontier. Keel, of course, was a singer and just awesome. He was in a couple different bands, and one of his albums called The Final Frontier. It's probably the most rockin', heavy metal, hard rock, glam, freaking kills. King Cobra, Part 3. I love this 3 album. King Cobra 3. That is the epitome of hard rock right there. Love it. Next up, King Cobra, Ready to Strike. I thought Ready to Strike was a really good album. One of the more underrated bands in glam rock. Don't make fun of Kix, because Kix was great. They had several albums. Show Business is awesome. Awesome album. Love Show Business from Kix. Album Hardwire and Blow My Fuse was excellent. Really the first and the third, especially from Kix, was really good. LA Guns, I have Cocked and Loaded. I sold their other album, didn't care for it as much. Cocked and Loaded was great. You know, kind of a Guns N' Roses sleazy sort of stuff. A newer band called Romeo Late Night, and the album Horrible Lust. Basically, if you like Tom Kiefer from Cinderella, you love that raspy vocal, you need to check out Romeo Late Night and their album Horrible Lust. I think this is just excellent vocals. It's kind of new. It's from Europe, and they're doing it really, really well. This is a great album. Lottie, Outlaw Invasion. This is the original edition on No Remorse Records. Lottie, Outlaw Invasion. Leather. Leather has such great vocals. I love Leather's vocals. Her album called Shockwaves. That's on Road Racer Records. Leather Wolf, Street Ready. That's their second album, and this is a smasher. Island Records. Leather Wolf, Street Ready. And the debut album from Leather Wolf. That's on Steamhammer. That means it's a German, edition. First press, Leather Wolf. Lee Aaron from Canada, the heavy metal queen. Her album Body Rock. Get into Lee Aaron. All of her albums. Call of the Wild, just awesome. She is the queen of heavy metal vocal, for sure. Her album Metal Queen, just awesome. Legs Diamond, Town Bad Girl. That's some nice sleaze right there. Speaking of sleaze, Legs Up, Like a Bomb. That's a reissue, Legs Up Like a Bomb. Lita Ford, Dancing on the Edge. The metal queen of guitar, Lita Ford. Love Hate, Blackout in the Red Room, popular album. Love Hunter, this is the earlier Retrospect Records, edition. And Love Hunter was fantastic too. Lynch Bob, Wicked Sensation, it's a popular album. Marty Friedman, this is Dragon's Kiss album. It's pretty hard rocking. Massey, Downtown Dreamers, this is an excellent album. This is on Metal Blade Records, Massey, Downtown Dreamers. A masterpiece in my collection is Meridian, Lost in the Wild. This album, just amazing. CBS Records, Meridian, Lost in the Wild. Just love it. It's very, very unique. MSG, If you're not into Michael Schenker, you need to get into the Unplugged Live album, his MSG album with Macaulay. And then we've got Macaulay Schenker group Save Yourself and the Macaulay Schenker group Perfect Timing. These have some phenomenal songs on them. Schenker, Built to Destroy. And then another underground gem right here, Monster Through the Eyes of the World. This production is absolutely top grade, Monster Through the Eyes of the World. Next we're going to get into some Motley Crue, starting with Dr. Feelgood. All right, so we have Dr. Feelgood from Motley Crue and their Girls, Girls, Girls album. All of these are first, pressed on Elektra Records. Theater of Pain album is just amazing. Shout the Devil. Too Fast for Love. Then we get into a Canadian ripping band, super shreddy guitar 9.0, Too Far Gone. You probably never heard of this before. 9.0, Too Far Gone. That's a nice guitar shreddy album. Check these guys out. Roadrunner Records, 9.0. Noisy Mama. Everyone has one. Everybody has one from Noisy Mama. That's kind of a rarity and a really cool album. A bit AOR is this Northern Light, Shadows from the Wilderness. It's kind of soft, and I keep it in my hard rock collection because it just rules, and I don't know where else to put it. Northern Light, Shadows from the Wilderness is really, really good. John Norum is the guitarist from Europe, and just a phenomenal musician, singer, overall musician, guitar player. Face It Live 97 was awesome. Another Destination, really good. And you'll be blown away by Total Control. John Norum, Total Control album. That's on Epic Records. Just a great album. From Poison, their three masterpieces, Flesh and Blood, Open Up and Say Ah, and Look What the Cat Dragged In. The band Pretty Maids, the album Scream, I thought was really, really amazing. There's a couple really, really smasher songs on here that are great. Lethal Heroes was the American release, and then Future World is kind of a well-known Pretty Maids album. Pyramid, Cryptic Treasures. This is kind of a rarity, Retrospect Records. Pyramid, Cryptic Treasures. From Quite Right, I like Winners Take All. And Metal Health, which is kind of like the first heavy metal album that became really popular. Racer X, Second Heat. Anybody who's into guitar shreddy, check out Racer X, Second Heat. And then the Street Lethal album. This is Paul Gilbert on guitar, by the way, and other musicians who are just amazing. Rage of the Angels is a Christian heavy metal hard rock band. And the self-titled Rage of the Angels. Here's my fully autographed Rat Infestation album, which is kind of their comeback from Rat, and this album rules. Really tough to get now. The prices are really going high on these Infestation albums, and it really is great. I also have Detonator from Rat, Reach for the Sky. My favorite album from them is Invasion of Your Privacy because of those riffs. Those riffs, man. Absolutely. You Are in Love, Lay It Down, Closer to My Heart. Earlier album, Dancing Undercover. All of these are first press, and the Rat Out of the Cellar with Wanted Man and other awesome songs on it. Rat, of course. Moving on to this Rat over here. The EP, which is getting more and more rare these days, Sweet Cheater, and the old vintage production of the Rat EP on Time Coast Atlantic Records. Next up, we've got Razor Maid First Cut. This is a recent release, and it's really, really good. Razor Maid First Cut. River Dogs. This is kind of, country rockin', hard rock band River Dogs. Good album. You gotta have the Rockstar soundtrack. When you're in the mood for rockin', you're ready for some Steel Dragon. An excellent movie, too. Anybody who's into glam rock should listen to Rockstar soundtrack. Rocco, Open Invitation is their second album, and it's really fantastic. I like it better than the debut album. Debut album, Rocco, is still really good. This one happens to be autographed. Great album. Rough Cut, of course, with this vocalist here, Paul. Just amazing, Rough Cut. Good album. Another one that's just a gem in my collection is Rough House. The lead vocalist really does sound like Vince Neil, and sometimes you're thinking that you're listening to Motley Crue during their Shout at the Devil days or something with his Rough House. Roulette Reloaded. That one's on Aquanet Records. Roulette Reloaded. Really good album. This one is kind of a gem. Rocks, Outlaws, Fools, and Thieves. This is a bootleg, and it just rules, though. This band, active in the early scene, and were just awesome. Roxy Blue, Want Some. This is kind of popular in the glam rock circles. Soraya, she's got a great vocalist. I love Soraya on the vocal, and they have this album here, and this is a really pleasant listen. A European band that's not well known at all is Satrox, S-A-T-R-O-X, and this album is called Heaven Sent from Satrox. Not many people know this. It's a European release, and it is a really great album. Shotgun Messiah is pretty well known and great. Second Coming and the debut album, Shotgun Messiah, you gotta have it. Skid Row, Slave to the Grind, and the debut album were just masterpieces when they came out. Slaughter, The Wildlife is awesome, and I love the debut album too. This album I like just as much. Slick Toxic, Doing the Nasty. These guys were great. Look at this, how young they are. I think he was like 17 or something. Doing the Nasty from Slick Toxic. Spellbound is a band from Sweden. Rockin' Restless. This is kind of difficult to get. I think I paid maybe $75 for this CD. Spellbound, Rockin' Reckless. Really great underground stuff. Spread Eagle, just another great band, you know. You guys know this one too. Steeler, you know, for masterpiece musicians here. Steelheart, Tangled in Rains, the debut album with this cover on MCA Records is a classic. The best AOR album of all time is Strange Ways, Walk in the Fire. This is such a pleasant listen. So easy to listen to that stuff. Strike Force, Rain of Fire on Retrospect Records. Great album. Survivor, Too Hot to Sleep, another AOR classic on Scotty Bros Records. That's an old record company. Survivor, Too Hot to Sleep, good AOR. Good sleazy stuff, Sweet Cheater. Eatin' Ain't Cheatin' from Sweet Cheater. I love this album too. Here's Sweet Savage on Demon Doll Records, printed in 2016. Here we have Sweet Tea's Do It Till It Hurts. I really like this album. And Sword from Canada. Their debut album was more of a thrash. The second album was a hard rock, and the album's called Sword, Sweet Dreams from Canada. Sword on Road Racer Records. So last stack of CDs here, we've got Tesla. I think Tesla was a great effort for sure. The Radio Controversy was a great album on Geffen Records. And then they've got their Mechanical Resonance album. I thought this was probably my favorite from Tesla, Mechanical Resonance. Thunder was an excellent album. Backstreet Symphony from Thunder. Definitely check this out. I mean, don't just watch the video and then skim through it. And check out Thunder, Backstreet Symphony. It's a great album. TNT from Norway was probably Norway's best hard rock band for sure. And the album Intuition is an absolute masterpiece. Absolute masterpiece. TNT, Intuition. The earlier album is called Knights of the New Thunder, and they also have Tell No Tales. This is the original Mercury, records. Tokyo Rose, that was really tough to get, and I finally picked up a copy of Tokyo Rose. The Third Cage, featuring Tony Martin on vocals and Molo on instruments here. These guys were just awesome together. Third Cage, here's The Cage Part 2 with Tony Martin. Tony Martin's solo album called Scream, and then probably his most hard rock stuff is his solo album called Back Where I Belong. Tony Martin, Back Where I Belong. This is the original first press. Tony Martin, of course, became the vocalist of Black Sabbath, and his earlier solo stuff is the reason why he became the vocalist of Black Sabbath. Tora Tora, Wild America is an awesome album, and I think it's underrated, just as their earlier and first album, Surprise Attack, was underrated. Tora Tora is awesome. This album, Surprise Attack, and really Wild America, I mean, both the albums together are some really, really good glam hard rock album. Total Eclipse looks like this, and that's a good album. Triumph from Canada, Thunder 7, and their earlier heavy metal is Allied Forces. And then I thought this one, Just a Game, turned out really good. I also have really old stuff. I mean, Rock and Roll Machine from Triumph. This album goes way back. I don't know the year on this, 1977. But it goes to my glam hard rock. They're one of the biggest Canadian bands that started it all. Trickster, I guess it's a self-titled Trickster, and I thought it was pretty good. Twisted Sister, Come Out and Play, and of course the masterpiece Stay Hungry, that everybody knows. Taiketo, Don't Come Easy. That's good hard rock right there. Steve Vai, Sex and Religion. That's a solo Steve Vai. He's got tons of albums, but it's just one of them that I have. Vain, No Respect. You know, no hard rock collection is complete without No Respect from Vain. Valentine was not as good as I was expecting it to be. Vamp, Rich Don't Rock. This is a good album on Atlantic Records. That's the original edition, Vamp, the Rich Don't Rock. Good hard rock band. Vandenberg are just kills. I love the drums in Vandenberg. If you're a drummer or you just want to hear some really great stuff on Wounded Bird Records, Vandenberg, self-titled, drums are amazing. Vanessa, another album where, you know, I spent 40 bucks on it, got in the mail, and it's really not that great, but, you know, Vanessa, good stuff. Van Halen is the 5150 album, which is, by the way, named after his guitar amplifier. He had the 5150 model amplifier. 1984 album. These solos, you know, just blow you away. Top Jimmy solo. Besides, you know, Hot for Teacher and Jump in 1984, the stuff that you hear on the radio, really excellent album from Van Halen. Here's the Van Halen 2. This is for all people who play guitar. And then this smashing album, the debut album from Van Halen. They're the reason why Van Halen is so well known, because this debut album just kills. I mean, it's just a party smash. Vinnie Vincent Invasion. I really like the debut album, second album not as much. This, Vinnie Vincent, is some over-the-top shreddy lead guitar. Warrant Cherry Pie, especially, you know, Uncle Tom's Cabin and I Saw Red, and really just an excellent album. Wasp is one of the best hard rock bands of all time. Live in the Raw turned out really good. I love the imagery and sound of Wasp. Here's The Last Command. And then this debut album was just absolutely incredible. Wanna Be Somebody, Love Machine, and Hellion and School Days. This is just a smashing album. Just as good as Motley Crue for sure. Wasp, here's Live Animal. It's on Music for Nations. It's a slimline release. Then we got some White Lion. I've got a best of White Lion, the White Lion Pride album, which has got some sentimental stuff and some really nice listening right there. White Snake, Slip of the Tongue, the 1987 album, White Snake, and then the Sliding In from White Snake. Wild Side, Under the Influence, that's an excellent album for sure. Winger, that's self-titled. Winter Rose, another glam rock gem in my collection, features the vocalist of that guy from Dream Theater, Winter Rose. Ex Sinner, Get It album. I have this one on cassette tape too. Ex Sinner, Get It. XYZ, one of the most underrated bands ever for sure. Hungry album is just amazing, and so is their debut album, this XYZ. I've got a bunch of singles from XYZ too, and XYZ is just amazing. A classic hard rock band, Y&T, their 10 album I thought was probably their most glamish sort of material. They had a bunch of hard rock and heavy metal stuff, but I thought 10 was a really excellent choice. Yngwie Malmsteen, Facing the Animal. Surprisingly, really heavy for Yngwie. He really chugs it hard on this one. For shreddy stuff, I like Yngwie Malmsteen's Odyssey album, his album Trilogy, and probably my favorite is Marching Out. Because of the vocalist and the awesome lead guitar, this is probably the good place to start with Yngwie Malmsteen. Here's the debut album called Rising Force, and then one of the last bands here in my collection is Czar, Hard to the Beat album, and then Czar Sorted Out album, and this killer album right here called From Welcome to Goodbye. And then finally, this masterpiece from Czar called Live Your Life Forever, featuring John Lawton on vocals. This album is amazing, amazing from Czar. The last CD in my collection is Sinatra, The Great Escape. And this album, another, you know, don't forget to check out Sinatra. I really appreciate that you guys checked out my collection here. This is really cool to go through all the stuff and just give you a quick synopsis. Check you next time, bros.